purposefulness.
Purposefulness.
Purposefulness means having a definite purpose. Purpose creates meaning, offers a new sense of direction, and helps guide our paths, behaviors, and goals when applied to life. So that's pretty deep.
Yes.
But kind of got me thinking, do you think every single person on this planet has a purpose?
So it's really hard to say every single person. And I want to say yes.
Right. But
do they?
I don't know. I think you can only have.
So if you consider every person in this world to be like a seed,
Yep.
all right?
Okay.
Seed has potential.
Right.
It can grow into whatever it was designed to grow into.
Mm-hmm.
It can also get planted and never emerge from the ground.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if that seed never emerged from the ground, did it actually fulfill its purpose?
Right. So like you're saying, like maybe that seed had a purpose to begin with, but are they doing anything to fulfill that purpose?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of people in the world. And when I think about the world, I think about like way beyond what we know in terms of like people online and things like that. There are people who are living, far away. There's billions of people
Yeah.
who don't even have internet. There's like, they don't have electronics like we do. What type of life are they living? And is it to is it to being purposeful? I think in some cases they have an easier time living to purposefulness than a lot of people do in what we call modern world, I guess. Because in the modern world, it's very easy to not be purposeful.
Yeah.
Because you get distracted, right? There's so many things
distractions.
They can take you away from being the seed that has the potential to grow to just staying in the ground and never getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's why purposefulness as a building brick is something that's very important, because that actually is something that you need to have in order to thrive, to grow.
Yeah. Even if you're not distracted like all the time by that thing, I feel like that stuff can get in your head. So it distracts you even when you're not even looking at it or scrolling through it or doing it. It's still in your brain.
Right.
And it's like rolling around in there, which is kind of like anxiety or depression and things like that. So that would also probably obstruct purposefulness.
It would obstruct it, yes.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think your purpose in life is?
My purpose in life?
Yeah.
Personally?
Yeah.
So growing up, so I'm a Baha'i by faith.
Yeah.
And also by name. but Baha'is are like, it's a faith. It's a world religion.
Yeah.
And so the purpose, the purpose in life in the Baha'i faith is very clearly stated to know and to worship God.
Okay.
Put simply.
Yep.
Right? And it's only like, what, 5 words?
Yeah.
But then when you take that and you extrapolate from that, the purpose of to know and to worship God and what that means, it turns into a very, very big thing, right? So it ends up just kind of touching all these different points of your life. So to know God is to actually do a lot of what we talk about, right? With things like purposefulness and kindness and wonder and trustworthiness, right?
Creativeness.
Right.
Yeah.
And the more we practice this, the more we know God per se.
Yeah.
And again, when I say God, is of course in people's minds, there's lots of different ideas of that.
Yes, there is.
But to put it simply for some perspective, think of it like a spectrum, right? There is absolute all knowledge, and there's absolute ignorance of knowing nothing.
Right.
Right? So God is the all-knowing, right? Whereas the opposite, what some people would consider evil, is to know nothing. Yeah. Right? So think of it like a spectrum, and there's lots of space in between that where we're on our journey, right? Yeah. So you may be somewhere along the ways, on your journey towards the all-knowing, which is God per se, which is the perfection of all knowing all things, right? So if your life is to know God, means that you're on that journey towards the all-knowing, and to worship, it means to have a reverence and respect and to actually make your life like a prayer per se. then that becomes the purpose in life. That goes into everything you're doing, right? So just to give some perspective in terms of like why, when I say God, that's what I'm like, in my perspective, that's how it is. It's a spectrum, and you're moving towards that. It's not some, you know, specific thing. It's beyond even being able to explain.
Right.
You know, so
I can see that.
I just had to give that preface because people immediately have their own preconceived notions, which we talked about before, right?
Yes,
So.
Yeah, definitely have talked about that. It's funny because I feel like yours went like really deep, and if you had asked me that question before I asked you, I probably would have. My answer's a lot lamer. So what I feel like my purpose in life would be okay, so like I think my purpose. Do you think do you think your purpose in life can change, or do you think it's there from the moment you're born?
No, I think it could definitely change.
Okay, because I feel like mine's changed, and now I'm not even sure if what I even about to say is even a purpose of life. But I'm gonna go ahead with it.
Okay.
So before I thought my purpose of life was like get married, have a family, stay with that one person, have a boy, then have a girl in that order, possibly more, who knows? But exactly that order at first, and just be a mom, be a family, like teach my children and whoever, like I feel like all of my friends' kids are also my family. So teach children that, I don't know, just teach them how to be good people and grow up. So I felt like that was my purpose in life. But now, with me now, I'm not with my kid's father. And so that was probably like the hardest thing, because I honestly, like that was my strive for life. Like that's what I wanted. So I don't even know if that's a purpose now that I'm saying it. But now I can, when you think about it, it's changed. It hasn't quite gone like that, but I can still teach my kids and other kids to grow up to be decent human beings. So I feel like that's my purpose. Kind of lame, but.
It's not lame at all. No, it's, I mean, like, if the purpose, I mean, like, frankly, I think that purpose, I mean, that's essentially if you want to put it into other terms, you are wanting to give to the next generation something that's going to allow them to go further than you, right? Yeah. And a lot of people think that on a biological level, that's really what our purpose is. And truthfully, you know, from a you know, in terms of like a species per se, it is what we are on a biological level, our purpose.
Make babies, and they produce more babies, and they produce more babies.
Yeah, and then have them go further than we did, right?
Yes,
so they're always the next generation is somebody or the next generation essentially gets to stand on our shoulders and be able to see further and go further than we ever were.
I feel like, but like nowadays I hear a lot of, I can't believe people are even bringing kids into the world like this right now. Or you see sometimes like conspiracy theories of, I don't even know if it's say conspiracy theory, documentary, I don't know. I've just like read or even reading things, but like of people saying the farther like the bloodline goes, I don't like to use this word, but the stupider people get.
Okay.
But I feel like we haven't seen that. Like, look the stuff that we've created. But maybe I don't know. That's That's a whole topic on its own, I feel like.
What do you mean by the further the bloodline goes, the stupider they get?
Like, the DNA is getting weaker and weaker.
Really?
Yeah.
So, as far as DNA goes, we know, I mean, what we know scientifically is that DNA requires diversity in order to really strengthen.
Right.
So the only lines of DNA that should actually be weakening are ones where are actually people who are staying within their own race and culture.
Okay.
And so because of that, the diversity of DNA becomes less and less. Right?
Okay.
Because every time they procreate and every time they have another generation, they're only going to be able to work from the same DNA that from the previous generation, and there isn't a lot of diversity. That our DNA likes to have lots of different diversity, because what happens is when two different types of DNAs come together and they clash, it creates something that's whole new and whole stronger, right? And and we see this consistently, and actually this is why you can see. And I know there's not, some people aren't going to like to hear this, and maybe they like it, but people
Agree
who
or disagree?
people who come from mixed backgrounds,
Yeah.
right? They tend to have they have lots of strengths compared to people who stay in a homogenous type of a culture where it's just them all the time,
Okay.
right? So in terms of like, because you said DNA and the DNA is getting stupider kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's what it was pretty much. There was an example, but I completely forget what it was. But yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Is like the DNA is getting weaker and weaker.
right.
But now that you're saying that, then that doesn't even make sense at all either.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it's just one of those things that you hear too and read. And another negative thing on social media.
of course, of course.
So yeah, do you think like everything happens for a reason?
Does everything happen for a reason? I like to. So to say that everything happens for a reason means that you believe that it happens for a reason.
Right.
If you believe everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
you're going to find a reason.
Yeah.
If you don't believe everything happens for a reason, you're going to miss the reason.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost like, to me, if you can have it's almost like the difference between having your eyes open and having your eyes shut.
Yeah.
Right? So just because something, it's easy
true.
to say that, it's easy to say something isn't there if you have your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Right? But it still doesn't mean it's
You're
not
set in
there.
your own ways.
And you're set, yeah. So does everything happen so if you believe everything happens for a reason, yeah, you're going to find a reason that for things happening,
Yeah.
right? But if you don't believe it, then you're not going to find it. And to me, it's just the difference between having your eyes wide open or having your eyes shut to what's going on.
Yeah.
But by believing in having a reason for everything and looking for those things, having the perceptiveness
Yeah.
to be able to see it, another building brick.
That was
then,
last week.
Yeah, so then you'll be able to, then with that, you can gain more purposefulness out of everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And it contributes to the story, right?
Yeah.
Which is our lives.
Right. So I feel like what I'm about to say, you're going to be like, that's not, you can't do that. You can't do that. So I feel like all of the good things, yeah, I feel like they probably happen for a reason. But anything bad that happens, I feel like there's no reason for that.
There's no reason for bad things to happen.
No.
Okay, so I would give the exact opposite and say that everything that
To me, I guess. Maybe I'm talking about myself. I don't know.
So when bad things happen, again, it has to happen both ways. But I would say
Right,
that
it can't be one way or the other. I know
I
that.
would say that bad things happening are actually with more reason
Yeah.
than good things.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's through tests and difficulties that we grow.
Right.
It's through the difficult times that we actually learn the most valuable lessons.
Yeah, but like sometimes like such bad things can happen. Like I don't want to learn anything from that. Like what if you get into that mindset? Like I'm kind of thinking about what happened locally not too long ago. Like that, what in the world could like what would the reason be for that?
You're talking about the mass shooting,
Yes,
aren't you?
yes.
Okay.
Like
So-
that's what I don't get. Like what can you learn from that? Like I guess maybe the
So off the cuff, without getting into anything further,
yes, yeah,
one thing I personally took away from that
yeah,
was the idea of guns
yeah,
and owning one.
yeah,
Because what happened in that situation? Because traditionally, I've grown up in the city,
yeah,
right? And for most people in the city, there's really no reason for you to have a gun,
right,
right?
right,
So again, this is one thing I learned from that event, right? When that situation happened, that guy literally drove right past my street, like while that was all going on.
He was like in front of the bunker
Yeah,
that day.
he actually went. Yeah, he actually came here.
Yeah.
Right. So, but he also, because I live close by here, he
Yeah.
also went right by us.
Yeah.
And when all of that was
Scary.
happening, and we knew it was happening, all I could do, like actually, like while I was in my house, it was a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Right. And all I could do was actually close my shutter, like close my blinds on my house, and just make sure that this guy doesn't see us.
Yeah.
Right. But otherwise, we were completely defenseless.
Yeah.
If this guy, because so far we didn't know what this guy was doing other than going around and killing people, and he could just show up and then just fire away, and there's nothing I can do. Where are the police? They're about 20, 40 minutes away out in Bible Hill, right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing we can do. So the whole idea of like there's nothing we could do to defend myself here. Suddenly it was like, wow, if I had something like a gun, right? Now I understand, right? And when I lived in the city, the concept of like, why are these people so crazy about guns? Like, it was so weird to me. It was like, you don't need a gun. That's stupid, right? And so I had that attitude, and like a lot of people do, right? But then once you're in the situation where you have a crazy maniac who's going around killing people, and you're in a rural area, and there is no police for a good half hour away, and by the time a half hour is done, we've seen how much damage can be done. What are you going to do? Right? I actually started to think about, wow, what am I going to do for like if something like that happened again? Right? So it got me thinking. It changed my position in terms of looking at why some people feel so strongly about being able to have something as lethal as a gun
protection
to be able to protect themselves. Because the truth is that in some places geographically, the police just aren't there. And they can't make it in time to be able to do anything. And there are clearly crazy people out there that went on rampage, right?
And it's not just here that stuff happens. It's all over the place.
This happens, especially in the US, we see that happen on a frequent basis. But even in other parts of Canada, it's happened. But that was a very bad thing. It changed my outlook on guns. Whether that's something that's significant or not remains to be seen. But in terms of like how it affected everybody else, I think it did have a lot of other people just sort of raise their like heighten their awareness of just how vulnerable they are in such a circumstance, and have some people actually change the way that they're living.
And I think it could have been changed one way or the other. Like they could have been went your way, or they could have went, I'm even more against them now. Because that's how the murders happened, were with a gun. So
So they're just like, look at that, you know. So a lot of people in the city were like, look at that, he had guns, this is why we have to get rid of guns. And what happened? The government did that. The government started banning all these types of guns. Meanwhile, the guns he got were actually guns that were already illegal, and guns that were already, and these were like mega assault rifle, like the kinds of
your typical.
The kind of arsenal this guy had was crazy, right? So it's just, you have some people are just like, well, if we get rid of it. The truth is that even with boosting the laws like they did, it would have done nothing to stop a guy like this, because everything he got was legal anyway. So again, it changed my perspective. And even though I'm peace loving and don't want to,
harm
anything like that, the fact is that when bad things happen and there's no actual like enforcement or somebody who's supposed to be there to protect you, you need to be able to protect yourself, right? And how are you going to do that? Personally, I never went to the way of, I want to have a gun. I did, though, start to entertain the idea of stun batons.
Stun batons.
Stun batons, because if you have a stun baton, it's like an 18-inch device, and basically it's one of those things, like it could be a bat, but then you can use the end of that, and you can send 100,000 volts to somebody, and they will stop them.
Be cool if you could like Inspector Gadget it and just click a button, and it goes 50 feet long. And you don't even have to be close to them.
So you can't have stun guns; those are illegal. Right. But the stun batons are legal.
Right, they're two different things.
They're two different things. So like stun guns are basically like those things you can fire, and they'll go really far, like a gun, and zzz, take you out. But a stun baton, like that's something I could keep by my door, just like just like a baseball bat. And if anything is coming to my door, at least I have something that could like disable somebody. Right.
At least try. Yeah, for sure. What do you think life would look like without purpose?
Life without purpose are robots.
Robots.
Good
answer. I think I agree with that.
So I mean, you can almost look at some people and you can see that the purpose in their lives are just completely vanished. Like they're just pretty much going by day to day, and they don't have anything really driving them. It's almost like the system is driving them, and they've lost all purpose in their lives, and so they're not happy. It's really without any feeling, right? And without really being human, right? So that's why I say robots, right? Because it's just at the end of the day, they're just going through the motions, like, do this.
I've done that though. I was technically a robot then. Like just going through the motions of life and not, like, you know what I mean? Not working towards anything, not doing, like, not having any goals, purpose. Like it was just like, wake up, do the routine, go to bed.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like I was turning into a zombie.
Yeah.
Like I was just, it was same old. And you really have to take care of yourself and find your purpose, because I promise it'll make you drive way farther, and you won't feel like a zombie or a robot.
Zombie's a good term too.
Yeah.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, exactly. Do you think it's hard for some people to figure out their purpose? Comes naturally to others, not so naturally. Like, what are our thoughts there?
I think a lot of that has to do again with environment. You know, like so. Again, I go back to the seed concept.
Yeah.
You plant a seed in the most fertile environment for it to grow, and it depends on that seed what it needs, right? So if I have a seed for an apple tree and I go to the desert and I put it in the sand, how's it going to do?
Probably not very good.
No, it's going to die,
Yeah.
right? But if
It
I
might
took
be
it,
good. Who knows?
but if I took that and I put that into really fertile soil that's somewhere in this region of the world, because this is where apple trees grow, then it's probably going to do great, and it's going to grow to its purpose and potential, right? So I think that for people to figure it out, like the difficulty they have, again, it all has to do with the environment, right? And the truth is, though, is there's no ideal environment for being able to discover your purpose, because it can be like...
That's probably what makes it so hard then.
Yeah, because the truth is that, so think about this, like a lot of us think that you need to have this, like people who have like, lots of money and power and they have everything given to them, that they're in this ideal environment for them to be able to do well, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who was like growing up with like living on welfare and just like eating, just eating Kraft dinner every day with a terrible diet, and then just I say that because that's how we grew up, right?
I'm laughing because like yesterday I'm cooking, you're like, are you going to make that box of Kraft dinner? I'm like, yeah, I'm making it in the microwave, like a full box of Kraft dinner. This is just yesterday. So, okay. All right.
But we also talked about how we grew up on Kraft dinner, right? So, but like growing up on Kraft dinner and then just like living in an area that's just like not good.
Yeah.
And you think like people have this idea in their minds that it has to be someplace that's really nice for people to be able to get their potential. Truth though, the places that the most potential and the most purpose is found are in the worst places. It's in the places where they were denied everything. And it's like the difference between David and Goliath, right? The story between David and Goliath, in terms of like, a lot of people think it's about like, this big giant and this little guy took him down, sort of thing. But the truth is that David was just a shepherd. He wasn't a warrior like Goliath was.
Yeah.
And he used what he had to be able to take down Goliath. And he fought him in a way that Goliath never expected.
Yeah.
And that's why Goliath fell, right? And most people don't understand that story for that, right? The truth is that people who come from the worst places, they can discover their potential in such a way that they just skyrocket out of whatever circumstance they came from. And that's just how life happens,
Do you
right?
think it's because they have more drive, because they know what, like if you take like a middle class person, for instance, like they know what they can do in life. Like they know all this, and like, yeah, it's there, and yeah, I can go get that when I want it. But like maybe somebody like you're talking about, they see all these people and all these making big money and doing these inventing and crazy creative stuff, and they know that they have to do this now, or they're not gonna get it done in life. Do you think that's more like why they I don't know.
I think that, yeah, I mean,
They like more drive is what I'm trying to say.
they need to have, they have to have the fire in their belly, kind of thing, right? And the truth is that comfort takes that away.
Entitled.
Yeah. As soon as you get comfortable with where you are, remember, so I talk about this in the past, where I talk about being in your die zone.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So everybody has a comfort zone and they stay there, right? And some people are actually comfortable living on welfare and eating Kraft dinner.
Yeah.
Some people.
Yeah.
Right? Others aren't,
Right.
right? But it's when you get out of your comfort zone, like where you get to get uncomfortable, that's where you start to make some progress.
Yes.
But then when you get into your die zone, like where you're so far out of your comfort zone doing stuff that you would never do normally, that is where you really progress.
Yeah.
But the truth is that a lot of people, they just want to stay comfortable. And so they never discover they never really pursue their purpose, right? Or they may even know their purpose, but then just don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So you need to have this fire in your belly, and you need to be able to be willing to actually go beyond whatever you're comfortable with, wherever you are. So even if you are somebody who's like in the middle class, or even if you're just a rich kid or something, you know, you're not going to actually accomplish what you can set out to do unless you get out of that comfort zone. And the truth is, people who are well off have a harder time doing that than people who are like struggling. Right. When you're in a state of struggle, where you're like in a state of survival, right, then you have this sense to get out of it. That's much more urgent, right? And so then you push through it to be able to, and it's in those times that you tend to be actually pursuing your purpose more than once you get to a certain level and you start to get comfortable, because that's when you start to not follow your purpose, and then you get distracted by other things, right?
Comfortable. And I feel like procrastination comes along with a lot of this too, because, and you were saying comfort and I said entitlement, but like, I guess, I mean, I just feel like middle class or rich, or even some people who are, how did you say? Not, poor? I don't know. That might not be the best way to say it, but not well off. Yeah. I feel like, maybe not so much, but more middle class and rich people, like they're just like, I can do that next month, or I can do that in a couple of years. Like, I don't need to do it right now. Right. So let's talk about animals for a second. Do you think, we've been talking about humans and robots and zombies and whatever else, but do you think every animal has a purpose in life? So like, are they all moving towards a certain outcome, or are they, I don't know. Like, I guess you could think, and now I'm going to answer my own question.
Go for it.
What about like, what's that thing called? Like the evolution of life? Is that the, or is it like the tripod? What is that? Does anybody, you guys know what I'm talking about?
Evolution of
life.
life.
Like this thing eats this thing, and this thing eats this thing, and this thing eats this thing.
Okay.
The circle of life?
The food, the what?
Or the food chain.
The food chain. Yes.
Okay.
So I think every animal at least has a purpose to be in the food chain, at least.
So you view all of animal kingdoms as food.
Does that surprise you?
Honestly doesn't, considering some of the things you talked about eating. So doesn't surprise me. But I think, so I'd say that it's not necessary. I think they all have a purpose, but I don't think they're purposeful, right?
Okay.
I think having purposefulness is something which is uniquely human.
Yes.
Because it's something that's uniquely a choice for us.
Right. And we have the brain to think about that.
Yeah. Well, we have. I mean, you can argue about the brain. You know, like. I mean, whales have way bigger brains than we do.
No, I sort of mean like, what am I, like third dimension? They're only in 2 dimension, aren't they? What am I trying to say?
What?
I don't know. Justin and I were talking about this the other day on the deck, and he said that like animals and like bugs and stuff aren't like, oh, they're missing, is it a chromosome maybe? I don't know. You just talk.
Okay, then. So, I mean, at the end of so yeah, there's a food chain like you like to talk about.
Yeah.
That's great. But, I think that as far as purposefulness, though,
You think that's just a human thing?
that's something which is uniquely human because it's something that's a choice. It's something that we need to discover, and these are things that animals don't go through, right? Or insects or plants or anything like that, because they're simply fulfilling their purpose in their place in creation, right?
By being on the food chain.
By being on the food chain, yeah. They're all here to get in your belly, aren't they, Kelly? so they're
hilarious.
They're just they're all serving a certain purpose in the ecosystem, right? But that's not purposefulness. Purposefulness is where it's a process of discovery and being able to actually get the most out of our lives and actually be able to progress in a way that is purposeful, but greater than what we're just programmed to do from a biological level, right? So in that sense, animals do have a purpose, but purposefulness isn't something that's part of their makeup.
No.
Yeah.
Good to know that they have a purpose, though. Well, this was fun talking about purposefulness. I did pretty good on my pronunciations throughout the show as well, so I'm pretty impressed.
Awesome.
Stay tuned. Don't forget to join our community forum. We're supposed to plug that.
Okay.